let's follow the text. And in the meantime, the way that Said has projected culture, and already I have discussed in my last session that he has discussed, he has termed culture as theater of all ideologies. Think the term how he used. He also as a battleground, and also it is a mixture of all ideologies, hegemonies, manifestations of all ideologies. That's time he has called it theater of all ideologies. And Said prepares that how does the imperialists or the colonizers they made the cultural preparations of empire, and how did they culturally prepare for dominating role, and how they used each other as a form of control. So in short, that is empire, I mean extension of or settlement of the colonization, that is prepares for a colonialist culture. And we'll discuss today how is that colonialist culture manifested, is formed again, and how through the adoption of imperial ideas. So this imperialism, this process of idea of imperialism, how does it work as a cultural force, apart from their economical, political, and military force, they use their cultural force. And even that force sometimes may be visible or not visible. There's maybe tangible, but most of the time they try to present this intangible way, I mean invisible ways. And even it is as powerful as military operations, that is militant operations, as very malicious force. So these are the main ideas that discussed. Even some of the ideas was discussed last class, and today also the rest of following the ways we'll proceed on. Okay, dear students, you see the last session we stopped 15, and here Said is talking about the colonization. How did it happen in Australia? In Australia, that is the British power, they established their settlement, I mean their colonial settlement for their own interest. Though it was treated as a penal colony, penal zone, and they sent the convicted for certain periods, 7 or 8 or 10 years, and after in order to build their empire over there. And after building empires, gradually they were given the opportunity to be settled here. In this way, they prepared to build a modern Australia over there. And this is being discussed in this Paris and already in the two famous novels. That's David Copperfield and Great Expectations. How the Maguires were sent, convicted there, and David Copperfield was some characters were settled there. That is for their imperial purpose, and that has been discussed here. Let's see what does the writers say more. because you know this is the text where the important lines I have just underlined with the colors so that you can easily merge and read out when it is very important, what lines is important. The old is talking about the Pete, how the Pete, I would like to quote one last sentence. Pete takes on a new career with his boyhood friend, Herbert Pocket. This time not as an idle gentleman, but as a hard-working trader in the East, where Britain's other colonies offer a sort of novelty that Australia never could, that never could. Okay? So see, thus Dickens settles the difficulty with Australia. Another structure of attitude and reference emerges to suggest Britain's imperial intercourse through trade and travel with the Orient. So already what the Orients with the colonized, the native people are called the Eastern people are called the Orient, and already discussed in Orientalism, you see there. So this Britain's imperial intercourse, imperial intention, while and how the writers like Dickens, he advocated for the expansion of imperialism and the settlement of the colony, and how he tried to justify these colonialist cultures and to establish into the minds of the colonized as inferior, as uncivilized, and so they need to be ruled. Okay, they need to have the presence of some enlightened power like the Britain's imperial colonial force. So this, the working the cultural dimensions. And you see the slide that one of the is language. You see the highlighted here. The students, it is highlighted here. As you see, language written. You follow the cursor. Okay, language written is not only the penal but imperial. You know, the Magwitch was the criminal, and he was convicted, and so he was sent to Australia. And Britain's imperial intercourse through trade and travel with the Orient, a lesser world. You see, the lesser people, lesser country, lesser personality of these binary oppositions. So this negative connotation already you see here, the lesser world, populated with lesser people of color. In words of Conrad, Kipling, Gaida, and Loti, you see the Condor's Heart of Darkness I discussed, and Nostromo, another famous novel justifying the imperialistic process. And Kipling, he was adamant imperialist. And Kipling, the famous phrase, I think you could remember, that is, to civilize the colonized people is a white man's burden. It is the responsibility. But in other book, that is the Ballad of the Eastern West, you will be surprised, their viewers, to know that what did he comment? What is his idea about the Eastern people, the East? He said that the East is East and the West is West. You see the two binary poles, two different poles. And the twin never shall meet. I mean, the relationship, I mean, the union, the interactions, relationship, congenial relationship that cannot be possible. I mean, always an unequal relationship will be. I mean, a kind of, you see, the Eurocentric, ethnocentric attitude is always shown here. Okay? And they are judging their other cultures through the perspective or perspective of their own culture. They consider themselves to be superior. Their culture is superior than the European culture, the Western culture. I mean, this Eurocentrism, the ethnocentrism, that is side wants to break out, root out. Okay, and how this was manifested through the writings by the writers during the period, even after the decolonization period, even after the Second World War II, it is clearly it is represented here, and this distortion of the history, distortion of the civilization, distortion of the indigenous cultures. Okay, so this manifestation or the representation that is always represented, I mean, that is unreal, that is distorted. In their, through their eyes, they are judging the other cultures, the other values, the other practices. Okay, but their intention, of course, is to justify their colonial process and to make us the idea that we, the inferior people, need to upgrade ourselves, coming in touch with their culture, and at the same time to have the feeling that we are here to be ruled by that white power, by the superpower. Okay? So this very line is very important. Conrad Kipling is important. The next, see, they already have told our Conrad Nostromo. Here, and you think the another novel Conrad Nostromo. Here, there are, you will find the two representative. One is from USA, I mean America, and another one is the British. And they're talking the America and you see the modern superpower. Okay, they combine together and the character is telling that we will run the business. We will run the business. Whether the world likes it or not. The character is Royd and he's talking to Charles Gould. Okay, so that's why you see their very mentality, their very intention of justifications. And this very motive of running the business, running the world, they made the devices, the cultural devices, how to make the divisions in the name of civilizing nation. So the same picture here. So you did this slide. The same thing already discussed. Nostromo, Holroyd, the San Francisco financer, and that here is the line you see that I would like to quote dear students because this is taken from the text. We shall run the world's business. I mean here they will dominate the British as well as the American power, world business. I mean, they'll dominate the world. Whether the world likes it or not, the world can't help it, and neither can we. Okay? I mean, it is a process. It is they're destined to do it. Okay? And they will create the new world order. You see, already marked in yellow color, dear students, dear viewers, please you see. So how the cultural projection is made, it is justified by the writers. Okay. I mean, rhetoric of power by the British, the French, the Belgians, the Japanese, the Russians, the Americans. So the finally Conrad is named as the precursor of the Western views of the Third World. I mean, with the Third World, after the Second War, you know, the Third World countries is much interpreted, was discussed that this possession comes as the colonized people, as though they enjoy independence after Second World War, most of the countries. But the Western views of the Third World, you see, that their views, how do they treat us and how do they see us in their eyes? So already it is marked. I don't like to read it out all the important lines. Their views, you will see the text and you can see. I would like to support these lines in support of my discussion today. Because I would like to make the textual interpretation, because the sense it is included in your text and you have to sit for the examinations. So you see how the words, how the phrases, the lines important for you to make your answers, and also see and equally the main ideas that is working behind this lines. And already I pointed out that is, you see the red mark. Where's wicked power? Okay. So this is power, superpower, imperial power, colonial power, okay, cultural power, whatever it is, but try to use the word wicked power. Because their intention is, you already discussed heart of darkness, you see, their purpose was wicked. Okay? While impeding making journey to Congo, the Africa, their intention is to behind working their wicked power for their expansion of colony and to economically exploit the country and the natives. Not only to rule, but to exploit the economy. Okay? In the name of ivory. So this phrase is very important, dear viewers. Waste, wicked power. Okay? So this binary opposition will help you to understand. West and we decolonized the East Asian, even the North American country, when it was invaded and also it was colonized by the British. Okay, during the 17th century towards onwards. So you see, these are that's why I told where's wicked power. And you see this slide how it's important. Writers, travel writers, filmmakers. You see, already I have pointed out how they use the culturalists, the writers, journalists, media personalities, even politicians, okay, and their agents to justify their superiority and to justify their mission, their colonizing mission. Who are used here? The writers, travel writers, filmmakers, mixes to satisfy the exotic taste of European and North American audiences. Western view of the non-Western world, often blind to other histories. You see how important line this is. Because they are so much Eurocentric, ethnocentric, and monopolistic. I mean, that is monocultural attitude they hold. That's why the people like them can say, treat us as a mysterious people, mysterious land, because they are blind, because they are one-sided perspective. They are they're treating us, our cultures. Western view of the non-Western world often aligned to other histories, cultures, and aspirations. And you see another important line, how it is important. Dear students, you will see these important lines already you will find in the text. Okay, as this is the keywords that I pointed out for you. We, the Westerners, will decide who is a good native or bad. You try to understand. You think of shooting an elephant. You think a passage to India. Can you remember the passage to India, the Ronnie Heslop, the magistrate, who made Dr. Aziz, the Indian character, convicted, okay, and sent him to jail? And how George was made compelled to shoot the innocent elephant? Okay. And why the horror was pronounced in Heart of Darkness against imperialism? You see, this is very important. We, the Westerners, will decide who is a good native or bad. I mean, they will decide who we are and how are we treated. You see, the presentation, or I would rather say mispresentation, or the distorted presentation, they will determine our existence. And this is the very cultural notions, Eurocentric notions is being used here. Conrad was both, that's why imperialist, anti-imperialist, and imperialist. I mean, he is a very, very in between, I mean, a very contradictory role he is playing here. Apparently in the Marx of progressive, actually he is in favor of the imperialistic missions. And it is, I do believe it, because you see, during the colonial expansion, settlement, if we follow that there was no domestic protest or demonstration in British during the period against the imperial mission, colonial mission during their reign, extending their empires. So what does it mean? That all the British, all the West turners, they supported, they nourished the same idea about the Orients, about the Eastern people, about the natives, that we are born to be ruled. Okay? So this is very important, that Conrad is coming here is very important. Is through his two writing, there is Heart of Darkness and Nostromo. You see, that is in 19, Nostromo's imperialist philanthropy to making the world safe for democracy. The United States government tries to implement its wishes all over the globe, especially Middle East, Vietnam. I mean, you see the invasion of, or the colonial attempt of the superpower in Vietnam and also in Middle East, you see, is it didn't escape the critical eye of sight. So these writers, films justify imperialistic system. West to visit their fantasies and philanthropies upon a mind didn't third world. Again, the third world. Third world always you see the binary opposition against the superpower and the third world. I mean, first world, third world. You see again the binary. You see superior, inferior, developed, non-developed, or less developed. In Western representation, we have no life, history, or culture. This is very, very shocking, undermined statement about our culture. Dear viewers, you see the line marked in red. how are we represented in their perspectives? Again, that one-sided representations, that Eurocentric representation, that ethnocentric representation. In Western representation, we have no life, we have no history, we have no culture, no independence. Or integrity. Worth representing without the West. I mean, without the West, we have no existence. We need them to enlighten us. Okay? Their presence is important. So this very line marked in red is very, very important for you. And next slide, I would like to see this, some characters, some of the work after decolonization. I mean, after the Second World War, what the sea, the massive intellectual, moral, and imaginative overhaul and deconstruction of Western representation of the non-Western world. I mean, after the Second World War, their policy, their presentation was changed in different way and how, but still the process, imperialistic process goes on, but in new forms. That is the difference. And that's why now we are fighting for to get ourselves decolonized in mind. And decolonizing mind is but how much, how far we have achieved that state. And side comments that still is going on. That's implicit process, but in new form, in different form. And that's why the post-colonial critics, post-colonial writers, they have critically just revisited the past and also the present, whereas how this process is going on. And especially the post-colonial critic Frantz Fanon is very important, Homi Bhabha is very important, and their mission, we see through their writings, realize how they, Frantz Fanon, of course, is through his post-colonial eye, he is talking about the against the Eurocentric attitude of the Western about the East or the African people or the Asian people or the Arabian, I mean the Middle East people, whatever you see, the representation is distorted. All the post-colonial critics. Chinua Achebe, Gugi, Wa Thiong'o, Ifsi, Salman Rushdie, Gabriel Marquez, and many others. They're all the post-colonial critical represent view of this mission, imperialist colonial process, and how they critically pointed out their missions and how they work culturally, economically, or using their military force, and along with the military force, the cultural weapons, and this critically they are pointed out here. So this is again, if you look at this important text attitudes, either ingenious or boring. Please, you see how important it is. Text attitudes, either ingenious or boring, involve the deployment of power and interest. Power, text. I mean, the text is their text, of course, their text, their discourse, the Western text, Western discourse, especially during their colonial era. Okay, they deployed all their machineries, that is, in association with power and their interest, in the name of their benevolence or altruistic mission or their civilizing mission, whatever the good or the humanitarian task they advocated, but within the periphery, within their perspective was their power or interests. We see Conrad both criticizing and reproducing the imperial ideology of his time. You see, again, there's imperial ideology. So this ideology, hegemony is very important because already Said pointed out that culture is theater of all ideologies, all hegemonies, all philosophies, all discourses. But that is connected with that power. I mean, the Michel Foucault, the French critic, postmodernist critic, and how this together work as power nexus to rule with the interests. So this is, and that ideology, that culture that is exploited. That, I mean, culture is exploited to exploit the natives. Okay, their viewers. So I'd rather say it this way. My expression should be very easy. And world has changed. Newly empowered voices asking for their narratives to be heard. I mean, to be heard. Spivak can the subaltern. You see, this subaltern studies now developed after this time. That is to represent the history of the Asian in new way against those Eurocentric, ethnocentric Western representations that they are the superior. And later on I will discuss against those critics who has dismantled that notion of superiority by some modern critics like Homi Bhabha, Fainam, Salman Rushdie. We'll discuss later on. So we'd like to be heard, our voice should be heard. I mean, our protest and the other side is gradually preparing us to go for resistance. I mean, the resistance is very important. Otherwise, our voice must not be heard at all. We will be silenced. They will be heard and we will be silenced. But we have to break that binary oppositions that we should be heard. We should establish our own culture, that every culture in this multiculturalism, multicultural globalized world, there are a lot of cultures living together, but every culture should be respected. Dear viewers, you think of our own country. We fought for our independence. In 1971, our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, laid our victory, was the leader. But behind our victory, and then he introduced the new Bangladesh, Sonar Bangla, as non-communal. That here, the people from every religion, from every race, tribe, the country belongs to all of them. So this secularism, that so this country is for all, and they will harmoniously live each other, showing equal respect to each other. So one culture should not be neglected by other. So what a vision, what a visionary thought that our father of the nation nourished during that moment. And he introduced our Solar Bangla that way. And I'm talking about dear viewers about the resistance. You think during our liberation war, our Southern Bangla Pitarkan, you see, they created the power of resistance against the Pakistani forces. And they inspired our freedom fighters. And this resistance also created how, dear viewers, I would like to say, you think of our Victory Day, you think of our language movement day, 21st February, you think of 16th December, 26th Independence Day, Victory Day. Okay, all the historical, even you think of our Pohila Boishakh, 1st of April, our ingenious culture, the glorification and the to sustain our original culture, our Bengali culture of 1,000 years that is sustaining in Bangladesh. So this view, this multicultural approach, that should be harmonious blend of living together of all cultures, that is envisioned our father of the nation, our prime minister too, and at the same time, this is the great man always think great, and Edward Said pointed out that same vision. And also, their viewers will find it available also in their post-colonial critics, in their writings and their critical essays that pointed out. They have violated, broken, ruled out the binary division totally. There is no binary at all. Again, you see, world has changed, voices. The students, history of imperialism, culture, the same thing. Now again, the history of imperialism and the culture can be studied as neither monolithic, already I pointed out. Never mono, it is heterogeneous, it is multicultural. So there should not be any monolithic. There should not be any compartmentalized as done by the Westerners. So our struggle should be to be free from the empire goddess, liberationist energy. Okay, so this mission is pointed out so importantly. And how their projection of culture, how their projection of our natives' culture, Indian culture, our culture during colonial period, that they created the separation, they created the isolation. And you think the separation between Indians and the Britishers. So the relationship was broken. You think a passage to India, there is no relationship between India and Bangladesh, between India and the British. Finally, friendship broken between Aziz and Fielding. You see, this is very important idea. You see, culture and the aesthetic forms it contains derive from historical experience. So let's proceed on to find out more important lines. That is, after the decolonization of the British and the French empires, that it directly followed its two great predecessors. England and France. Because in this, the two colonizers once. And how they worked during empire that they built America began as its empire in 19th century. But it was in the second half of the 20th, after decolonization of the British and the French empires, the time of of their colonization process mentioned here. So the mission again is very important. Imperialism and resistance. So wherever is force, wherever is oppression, there is resistance, like our liberation war. So imperialism was not so easy. So gradually, resistance developed in the native cultures, and they created and they fought. Otherwise, our indigenous culture may not be restored. Okay, so this is very important against this separatism. Again, the culture is not monolithic either. Already I have pointed out. And it cannot be Western. There's no culture, okay, it may be the Western, it may be the feminist, it may be Afrocentric. But you cannot say that your culture is the superior and that should be the touchstone to judge other cultures. So this Eurocentric representation of superiority of one's culture cannot be tolerated in the multicultural, globalized time. So this is very important point pointed out here. Dear viewers, please follow this. Even this is last line is very important. You see that culture is not the exclusive property of East or West, nor of small groups of men or women. That culture, you cannot determine that it is our culture, it is your culture. Okay, we have our own culture that may be East or West, but you cannot have your blind vision that you cannot measure the superiority of one's of judging or dominating or governing and their cultures. Okay, this point. This all things highlighted, pointed out, and you see, dear viewers, this is very important for you how the ideology was used, how hegemonies were based. That is very important to them. Ideological concern in us and them, us and them. You see, again the binary division. Already Said pointed out in his Orientalism. Us and them. So us and them, you see, that is a division. Why us? Why them? Why this division? So it means that how, okay, if it is made by us and them, then why do you make yourself superior? And why are we treated as inferior than yours? So this intention is mysterious. This intention is supported with their wicked mission of colonial process. Okay, so this division, this identity is lost of one's country, and especially this division is vulnerable to the lesser developed countries. The smaller countries, because their sense of nationality, their identity, their own culture that falls into the threat. They meet threatening position imposed by the superior power that's talking about. And you see last matches what all cultures are involved in one another. Already I have pointed out that multiculturalism. After the Second World War, we have been decolonized. Our countries, they are enjoying independence, living, meeting each other with different cultures of different races. But though there is sense of racism, division, but side is talking that should not be. Every culture, all cultures should be harmoniously treated and live together. All cultures are involved in one another. None is single. None is single, pure. All are hybrid. I mean the heterogeneous. This hybridity, this hybrid culture, cultural hybridity is important now time. As Homi Bhabha is already pointed out, that we should not have the mimicry, we should not imitate the superior culture, but we have our own indigenous culture. But okay, during the process of the entrance of the other culture, there may be the hybridity, hybrid culture, but we should not ignore that entrance, but keeping our own self-consciousness is strong. Okay, our consciousness, our nationalistic spirit, our individual respect for our own culture, that should be intact. But later on, of course, we should not be blind to welcome also this hybridization of the new culture, because culture is not static, it is dynamic process, it is very transforming, it goes on, it moves on, okay, and it is not subject to any space or time. As Salman Rushdie pointed out in his imaginary homelands, that okay, man is somehow displaced physically or by time. There is no actually the sense of pure culture, the original culture. Okay, we have our Indianness, we have the Britishness, our Bangladeshiness. That's true, but also we are the getting opportunity to mix with the other cultures. You think of our Bangladesh, and that should be harmonized, but giving preferences, giving our passion and consciousness for our own culture too. None is single and pure, all are hybrid, heterogeneous. Dear audience, we have to near it and we have to finish within 5 minutes. Okay? That's very important. And that is very important. Said is talking about that how he was in exile and how this introduction, Culture and Anarchy, was an exile's book, because he had the opportunity to enjoy different cultures, both cultures, from the Middle East Palestinian and at the same time US culture, and he has seen that way. So he belonged to more than one history and one world. So that's why his experience, he has seen the experience, the diversity of cultures. So this diversity is important, you see. So though not any monocultural love for any single culture should be given preference, yes. Okay. So dear viewers, so this is the size presentation. Already I have made this way, and then you see there are many other things for your kind information of the learned viewers also too. Site has pointed our attention. He has drawn our attention that this is my observation, but it is up to, there should be more research, more critical discourses upon this culture and the relationship, what is working here. Because this is my experience, but more research, more discourse should be going on to see the inner reality. So, dear viewers, thank you. And I would like to thank you all of you here to join here and giving me a chance to share our interactions and our interactive discussion over the text. And hopefully we will meet you again with the visions that somehow the next class will meet together. So thank you very much. Thank you. And we should leave with the very speed that we love our own culture. Okay, but at the same time, we have respect for other culture too. So there is no binary. We, and it is our country, and we love our country, and we love our cultures. But of course, we must create all sorts of resistance against any kind of divisions or assault made upon us. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. See you.